Okay, so now it is time for our first talk of the day. We are incredibly honored to be joined by an iconic figure from the international urban design and planning community. Generally regarded as one of the architects of modern Singapore, our very special guest will be in conversation with Kok Chin Tay from Smart Cities Network and will illuminate for us some core principles of smart and long-term urban planning. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to welcome to the stage our esteemed guest, Dr. Liu Thai Ker.
Good morning and good afternoon, good evening from everywhere else. My name is K.C. Tay. It is indeed my pleasure to be moderating this dialogue together with Dr. Liu Thai Ker, whom many of you who have been around in Singapore from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and including 90s, would know what he had done for Singapore. So it is my pleasure to have worked with him over the last few years. And I first met with Dr. Liu 10 years ago when I was managing the IBM Smarter City Challenge project in 2012. He was the chairman of the Center for Livable Cities, and IBM then provided the recommendation report to the Singapore government, and 2 years later, in 2014, we launched Smart Nation. So today is a dialogue. I would like to keep it very conversationally. A dialogue is meant to be that, but I would like to have Dr. Liu to briefly introduce himself, as well as to give a bit of a background to how he had developed the principles of developing and planning Singapore for the first few decades of modern Singapore. And he would like to share his experience. So Dr. Liu, please briefly introduce yourself and the kind of skills you have sort of brainstormed and discussed with your team to develop Singapore to where we are today. Please.
Thank you, Casey. Today's theme is on smart city. So there are two parts. One is smart technology, one is city. I'm basically a city planner, not very conversant with smart technology, but nevertheless, I am a supporter of smart technology. And a lot of my younger staff actually work closely with me to create smart city or create smart buildings and so on. But my focus is mainly on planning because personally I feel that for a city to be smart, you must first plan the city properly. So I use the term intelligent planning because a lot of people tend to think that city planning is a creative act. That means that the more creative your slogans are, the more sexy looking your drawing is, then you are actually creating a creative city. I don't condone that because, and why is that case? Because when I came back to Singapore in 1969 to join HDB for 20 years, and then later URA, which is the city planning department, for 3 years, the Singapore government gave me what I call the urban planning laboratories, because most planners will simply just learn to plan, to do urban design, and then after they finish the job, they pass to the client. And what happened after that, they don't have a chance to learn. But in my case, I have to help the government to acquire land, to resettle squatters, to plan new towns first, and then do the urban design, oversee the architecture design and engineering design. But what is most important is I also had to help the government develop public housing, and manage the public housing. When you manage public housing, The beauty of that is you get a lot of complaints from the residents. The beauty of this, because there are two ways to treat the complaint. One is to dump it into a waste paper basket, but instead, I actually sift through every single complaint, and I organized 4 or 5 research committees to sift through them to find out the gems. Basically, to be frank, the gems out of all the complaints, maybe 2 or 3%, but those are very useful for me to know what are the ideas in planning or design that I have not thought of, or what are the faults in our planning and design. And then we put it to the next round of planning, next round of design. And this went on and on for 20 years. That's why HCB actually gave me a very valuable and very rare urban laboratory. That's why I want to say that when we talk about smart city, what is very important is we must learn to design the city scientifically correctly. So I always, in my speeches, I always tell people that we must believe in intelligent planning, not sexy-looking planning, not creative planning. It's intelligent planning. It should be scientifically based. And I hope that, because intelligent approach to planning ties well with smart technology. If you plan a city intelligently as a healthy human body, then the smart technology will be like the vitamin. It will make the healthy body stronger. But if you plan a city as a cripple, no amount of vitamin will make the city strong or handsome looking. So that is, and then after I apply the same principle to plan Singapore between 1989 and 1992, that's a foundation of the urban plan today. Maybe I'll just tell you the background this way.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Liu. And you know, I have had the opportunity to work with Dr. Liu over the last 2 years, in which I began to understand the principles of how Singapore was actually developed over the last first few decades. And it is really about urban planning and how he has, moving forward beyond the government, he has helped other cities. In fact, many of the cities are in China. So I would like for you to maybe share with us the founding principles of people and land. Because right from the very beginning, the Singapore government had emphasized on the environment, sustainability of the city and the country, in which we had invested cleaning up of the water of the river and building the Marina Bay Sands with centralized district cooling. All these are planning for the long term. So maybe you can share with our participants here and viewers, what are the guidelines that you have provided to cities outside Singapore in their urban planning? Can you share that, please?
Okay, a lot of cities, when they talk about planning, they talk about iconic architecture. But a collection of iconic architecture would not make the city smart or livable. So in my view, to plan a city well, we have to focus not on iconic images. We focus on 2 things, as you mentioned earlier, people and land. In other words, a planner must know what are the long-term, unchangeable basic human needs. Actually, if you look back, the basic human needs for centuries will be the same old thing. A place to live, a place to work, a place to recreate, or a place to go to school, and so on. The basic needs have not changed. And the other thing is about the need of the land. In fact, I asked a lot of foreigners working in Singapore, I said, why do you forsake your much larger country to come to tiny Singapore to work? Almost all of them, within 3 seconds, give me the same answer. I said, because everything works here. So our government focused on making the city work in terms of traffic, infrastructure, electricity supply, water supply, and so on. So one is for land, one is for people, one is for land. But on the land side, besides infrastructure, from the very beginning, some of you may not know, from day one, the moment the British government left Singapore, our government already made a decision to start pollution control. We would not accept highly pollutive industry. And also our government started the garden city concept. So garden city concept makes Singapore ecologically friendly. The pollution control make our environment better. And also the infrastructure, of course, make the city work better. So the focus is on people and land. And so I want to add one thing, is that a lot of people give the credit of workable, pleasant looking city to me. I can't accept that because our first generation political leaders focus on land and people. I used to talk to Mr. Lee Kuan Yew several times a year. And through all these years of talking to him, he never once asked me to think about iconic architecture, never once. But inside my mind, I think I understand that what he wanted is iconic city. But if you take care of the people's need, you take care of the land's need, you are creating an iconic city. That's what we focus on. And with an iconic city, you plus a smart tech, that city becomes really a world-class city. That's the way I see the connection between city planning and smart tech. I just want to add one more thing, that we, as a planner, we must think about the long-term need of people, long-term need of the land. Because although the city planner's job is to draw colorful drawings on a piece of paper, but that paper, whatever is drawn there, would, over the decades, become hard concrete and steel structures. So if we plan for long term, those hard concrete and steel structure may not need to be demolished. That's also ecologically friendly. But if we plan just for short-term usage, for the need of tomorrow, the need of next 10 years, you are going to build a lot of hard structures which may have to be pulled down repeatedly. And from the beginning, we made a decision that whatever we plan, we want it to last for a long time. And that's also something that is not emphasized enough in a lot of city planning.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Liu. You know, the Singapore government, when they were chair for ASEAN in 2018, we launched the ASEAN Smart Cities Network, 26 cities. They are all in different stages of development, and with the advent of the internet and as well as the Industrial Revolution 4.0, we're trying to incorporate smart elements and smart components to plan for the next 30 to 50 years, right? Long-term planning, but including smart. And you and I are working to support one of those 26 cities. And I would like to get your views. How would you incorporate the smart component as part of your urban planning, and in particular with reference to the project that we have submitted a proposal, right? Incorporating and the idea of innovation districts within the city, in which many of the innovation champions that will be speaking later may have the opportunity to be part of. So how would you, in your urban planning, incorporate those elements of the smartness?
Well, first of all, thank you for reminding me that I actually left the government 30 years ago. I've been planning about 60 cities around the world, mostly in China and Southeast Asia. And I think basically your question I just hinted on just now, and that is, in a city we must know, must give provision for smart technology. In fact, one of my staff in my current office now has helped me to look at the relationship between urban planning and smart tech. But at the city planning level, what we need is to allocate land for smart technology. So we identify certain usage. We need the land, and in our planning, we put that in. But at the same time, most of the smart technology can be carried out within buildings, within existing buildings. You just incorporate the technology in the offices and so on. And also, well, I think that's the main reason. So the link between urban planning and the beginning with the smart technology is not, there are just a few. For example, when I was a student, we don't have a high-tech park, but now it's everywhere. So that kind of provision we have to make. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I think, I believe we are almost time. So thank you so much, Dr. Liu, for this short dialogue. And I hope it has given our participants here and attendees physically and online the opportunity to understand about smart and long-term urban planning. And I may summarize as follows. Essentially, first, there must be, in my view, political leadership in wanting to plan for sustainability, right? And due to the foresight of the founding Prime Minister, he started on the premise that we must be green. Over the years, different flavors of green. And right now, of course, we have the Green Plan, interministerial effort to go green. And secondly, the foundation of people and land as a basis of urban planning and the principle in which we want to focus a people and land-centric or environment-centric. And thirdly, to prepare for the long term, whether it is greenfield or brownfield or yellowfield. It is the owners of the landowner, the city leadership, and the national government in wanting to mandate sustainability as part of their plan, and thereby allowing stakeholders, the property developers, innovators, to be part of that journey towards a more sustainable future. So with that, could you please join me to thank Dr. Liu for spending his time with us here, and I will end the dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.